Hello and welcome to another video from Ag360 Grain Marketing. I'm Austin Gehring, and today I want to talk to you about another feature we have in our MarketIQ service called confidence gauges. Confidence gauges are another way we bring information, put it at your fingertips, and give it to you a little bit easier and more digestible way to quick glance at it and move on with your day. Now, before I get started, I want to mention that another feature we have called the indicator table with the 4 check marks and X's, that is now moving to one of these confidence gauges, so be sure to look out for that. And I also want to note that this is for demonstration purposes only and does not reflect today's market. So with that, let's dive into the corn fundamentals gauges. We'll go over these all in general, and then if you're a little bit interested in what goes on a little bit behind the scenes, I'll give some more information about that once we go through them all. So the fundamentals gauges for both US and world are basically a look at today's supply and demand situation and compares today's prices versus prices we've seen in the past with similar supply and demand situations. Then we have a corn financials confidence gauge. It takes a look at dollar and inflation and just kind of compares today's price with that financial situation to financial situations in the past and where today's price compares to those prices in the past. Then we have a corn technicals gauge for short term. Basically reads how weak or strong the market has traded over the past couple weeks. And then we have a corn indicators gauge. I call this a little bit more long term. This is what our indicators table has shown in the past with the 4 X's or check marks. We'll dive into a little bit what that comes into, but a little bit more longer term view. And then the corn gauges or a gauges summary confidence gauge. It kind of implements all of these gauges I've mentioned into one number. It gives you a better idea of all of them working together. So if you have a little bit more questions, we can dive in a little bit into more detail on some of these. So for the fundamentals gauge for US, this gauge reads the carryout to use ratio, which is basically a read of supply and demand for the US. And what we do is we compare today's carryout to use ratio and then look in the past at all similar carryout to use ratios for a past number of years. And we look at today's price and compare that to the prices that compares to and how many prices have been below today's price. Then we look at the world fundamentals, very similar story. We look at the world carryout to use ratio that's released every month in the USDA monthly report. Compare today's price to past prices with similar carryout to use ratio. For the corn financials confidence gauge, I'm looking at the dollar index for the US and I'm looking at a measure of inflation, combining them a bit, and then having that as today's financial situation, comparing that to past number of years financial situations and where the market prices were at that point, and put out a number or a percentage of how many prices were below today's price. Next, we have the corn technicals gauge for short term. This is basically the RSI, or relative strength index, and it compares how low or high we're trading when comparison the last couple of weeks, and that is one technical to use to measure that. Then we have the corn indicators confidence gauge. It's a little bit more long term. As some of you know, the indicators table used the RSI, which is shorter term, but as well as profitability, comparison to the insurance price and the speculative funds. And along with that, I've also thrown in stochastics, which is another technical measurement, and stretched that out to quite a bit longer depending on the market, to kind of give you a more longer term view of how weak or strong we're trading, using all of those factors into that number. And then finally, the summary confidence gauge. This gauge starts looking at the current fundamental picture for both US and world and the financial picture, and takes that whole current situation combined and compares it to past situations that have similar of all of those. And then it compares today's price versus those prices that were pulled from that, and gives you how much prices are below today's price. When you get to that point, you kind of get a range of what we've seen in past history and where we're at today, where we are within that range. And then we take the short-term confidence gauge or the RSI and figure out if we're trading weak or strong today versus the last couple of weeks, and that gives us a better idea of, can we move higher or lower within this range that we've determined using these fundamentals and financials. So that's kind of what the summary gauge is trying to do, and just putting all these out here for you to look at yourself and decide which one you want to give more importance, and potentially give you a better idea and more confidence in your grain marketing. So with that, if you want to ask questions, or if you want to sign up for Market IQ, please look in the description below for our contact information. Thanks for watching.